Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Film Forum. This is our news show that we do on Tuesdays and Thursdays where we discuss the latest topics in the world of movie news and sometimes television, as you'll see with our first topic here. But I'm, of course, your host, Griffin Schiller, host of the FilmSpeak channel and all that good stuff. But listen, guys, we like to say at this channel, the conversation continues after the credits. And so if you want to be a part of that conversation, and this show is an extension of that, you're definitely in the right place. So consider subscribing to the channel. And the other cool thing about this show in particular is that it's really you, the audience, are a big part of it. You help put this show together. And so a lot of the topics that we cover are suggested by our patrons over on Patreon. And so if you join at, I believe, the $5 tier, you can have a hand in the creation of Film Forum, and then you also get access to the audio only version of this show that is a Patreon exclusive. So listen, if you are a longtime subscriber, a new subscriber, or any of that stuff, and Patreon is something that might interest you, definitely head on over to the FilmSpeak Patreon page. But enough of that stuff. Let's get into this thing. I am joined by two amazing guests here, both of which have been on the channel before. First and foremost, Mr. Jared Buckendahl. Jared, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing well, and people out there, if you pay a certain amount, you get to come on this show. He's not inviting me. I am paying to get on this show. I'm kidding. No, Griffin, thank you so much for inviting me over again. What, week 2 of this?
Week 2, buddy. Yeah, man. Yeah, the week 2, episode 4. We're talking all. Hailee Steinfeld might be in the Hawkeye series. Who knows? Yep. Cars are flying, and we live in a utopia. So that's basically all we're talking about on this episode.
Yes.
And then I'm also joined by my good friend, one of my longest friends on YouTube, Mr. Owen from Owen Likes Comics. Owen, buddy, how are you doing?
I mean, I'm guessing the utopia hasn't made its way across the Atlantic just yet, but I'm looking forward to when I get it as well. How's it going, guys? Everything is still very much not a utopia over on this side of the world, but it's you know what? I'm happy we can have this space and we can talk about something a little more happy. Let's go with that.
Well, yes, we'll try to. I would actually say the UK is probably more of a utopia right now because as you'll see by one of our topics we're discussing, you'll be getting Tenet before us because we don't know how to operate as a country. So that's great. No, but listen, we have a lot of topics to cover, so let's get into this thing. So right off the bat, we're starting with Emmy nominations, folks, and I'm going to pull that up here really quick. Let's see. We got the full Emmy nominations. Boom. There we go. So today is Emmy nomination day, for those of you who don't know, which means that award season is still happening. And mainly on the FilmSpeak channel, we do cover movies, but we also tend to cover TV from time to time. But Emmys is a fun time because I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the Television Academy, they're kind of moving in a more progressive direction than the film and television, or sorry, the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences. I think if you just look, not only this year, but like previous years, if you look across the board, I think that, television is willing to take more risks and extend the reach of like what is considered to be like an Emmy nominated drama series and all that stuff. So it's good to see them sort of like continue that sort of trend. But I don't know how you guys sort of feel about the Emmys or whatnot, but Owen, I guess starting with you.
I mean, I only was looking at the list about 5 minutes before we went live, so I'll probably let you two guys be the expertise on this. But from what I've seen,
Sure.
I didn't see any kind of like tremendous shocks. I am admittedly probably not the most well-versed in television person out there, but from everything I've seen this year and everything that I've heard a lot of exciting things about for shows I may have not seen, nothing really stood out as like a major omission on my part. It seemed like a lot of the things that I expected to get lots of nominations got lots of nominations. For example, things like Watchmen, The Mandalorian seem to be getting a lot of love in various categories, which I'm very excited and happy to see. But yeah, I'm very excited to see what you guys think about it.
Yeah, for sure. Jared, what are sort of your overall thoughts of just like the Emmys in general and maybe this batch of noms?
They haven't been an award show that I usually like gravitate to. The last couple years I have, because in this space, trying to know what the hell is going on with movies, TV, everything. And just glancing at the list before we went live, it's a lot of stuff that I had heard prestige from, the people we hang around with, film, Twitter, everything like that. So I don't know. Once we get into the details, I'm sure that there might be a surprise or a snub, essentially. But I don't know if there's anything big right now,
Yeah, for sure. I think kind of in a similar camp as you guys. I was basically the shows and the performances that were nominated, I wasn't too shocked by. Although I gotta say, for some of the categories, and I think we'll get to this right off the bat, there were like one or two where I was like, "What? You put that in over this?" Well, that was a decision. So yeah, I don't know. It is interesting, but I guess getting into this thing right away. Let me see. Let me pull it up here. Boom. Okay, there we go. So we're going to start with best drama series. So the nominees are for outstanding drama series are Better Call Saul, The Crown, The Handmaid's Tale, Killing Eve, The Mandalorian, Ozark, Stranger Things, and Succession. To me, the biggest shock of this batch of nominations is The Mandalorian. I don't know about you guys, but to me, I don't like, that was just like what listen, I like The Mandalorian. I think it's a fine show, but to be among like the best series nominated for outstanding drama just feels a little weird to me, especially when you're sacrificing something like Euphoria, which to me was the big snub from this category. Maybe even like The Morning Show or stuff like that. But I don't know how you guys feel about this, Jared.
Yeah, The Mandalorian, I think, is the one that's kind of making headlines right now, obviously. I mean, it was huge at the time, but then again, if you broke down each episode and stuff, it was like, it wasn't, one cohesive kind of work, essentially. I have not seen Euphoria, and I have not seen The Morning Show, but the people that I have talked to rave about both of those, especially Euphoria. So I'm kind of surprised that overall that one didn't get noticed here. I know that in the individual categories, it got some, notice, whatnot, some praise. But I'm kind of surprised that, and again, I haven't seen it. I'm just, taking my opinion from other people's opinions and what I've read, but it just sounds like that one missed the cut here.
Yeah, for sure. Owen?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. It's like I haven't managed to check out Euphoria, but it seems to be one of those shows that is kind of constantly being talked about online and constantly being recommended to me, and just seems to be getting loads of kind of appraisal and kind of love in kind of our respective circles. So it was kind of just with everything I've heard and with all the good reviews I've seen, I kind of just assumed that it'd be on this list. So, taking a look at it now and seeing that it's not there is quite surprising, considering a lot of the buzz that's gone towards it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
As far as kind of Mandalorian goes, I think, like Jared says, it very much kind of captured the zeitgeist of the last kind of year or so, and it was one of the most talked about shows on television, really. And like you said, with the way it was kind of serialized and the way the story was told throughout was it 8 episodes, there were some it wasn't like every episode was essential viewing. There were like a good chunk of episodes in the middle that kind of felt like filler. But overall, I still would probably rank it as one of the better shows of the year. But when you're talking about some of these other shows that maybe kind of missed out because of it, I can definitely see why you might think that other shows kind of deserve that spot.
Oh, sure, yeah, and I mean, listen, for me personally, I'm probably the most negative on The Mandalorian on this panel. It didn't really do much for me, and it was like tremendously underwhelming, I think, by the time it finished. Like there were a couple of really great episodes. Like I loved Bryce Dallas Howard's episode, Taika Waititi's episode, and such. But like on the whole, I can't say it really worked for me, which is why I'm kind of shocked to see it here. Technical awards, yeah, give it all of those like all day long. It absolutely deserves them. It's a gorgeous looking show, but like, I don't know. Like, I honestly would have even thrown Westworld season 3 in there over that. So, just sort of a weird sort of thing that happened. But anyways,
Hey,
moving
Griff,
on to yeah.
Griff, I got a quick question for you before we go on. Do you
Yes.
think that potentially Euphoria didn't make that cut there because of just some of the subject matter that's in it?
Yeah, that's So I saw Colin Williams, one of our friends, bring that up online, and I don't know, because there have been other shows that have had like really like touchy subject matter, or they're just like super difficult to watch, that have gotten nominated. So I don't know if that's necessarily the case, especially when you look at, and we'll get to this a little bit later, but Zendaya got nominated for Euphoria. So it's like they were willing to sort of accept the show. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you might be right on there. It might just be the, Television Academy doing something weird like that. But anyways, moving on to best comedy series, we have Curb Your Enthusiasm, Dead to Me, The Good Place, Insecure, The Kaminsky Method, The Marvelous Miss Maisel, and Schitt's Creek, and my personal favorite out of the nominees, What We Do in the Shadows. Seeing that show get as much love as it did, oh, it's so good. Seriously, if you are not watching What We Do in the Shadows, the show, you need to be. But Owen, starting with you, any shocks here? Any comments or anything?
Well, I'm very pleased to see that as it trundles on for yet another year, one of my all-time favorite shows, Curb Your Enthusiasm, continues to get the love and respect it deserves. I was actually watching some of the newer season this morning, and I can't find the words to describe how much I love this show and how much I historically have always just gravitated towards its just incredibly cringy humor. I think I described it to someone once as like the most British American show ever. Yeah. Because when you think of like famous British comedies, like say the British version of The Office, it almost exclusively relies on this kind of like cringe humor, which Steinfeld and Curb especially kind of excel in. So I've always kind of talked about it as a very British American show. But just looking at this list, like we talked about in the other category, there's a lot of names that I expected to see. Like you, I'm very happy to see What We Do in the Shadows getting the amount of praise it's getting. I've caught a few episodes of that, and it is fantastic.
It's
The
so
Good Place,
it's so
The Kaminsky Method, The Marvelous Miss Maisel, I'm hearing a lot of good things about. So overall, I kind of, from what I've seen of the shows that got nominated, I can't disagree with them. And I think it's a pretty solid list overall. Well, Team Curb.
Sure. Yeah, Team Curb. There you go. You bring up a good point. It for as long as that show's been on the air and like how consistent it is, it's fantastic. Jared, how about you?
Yeah, I've only spot watched a lot of these shows on here, but I've had a great time with all of them. I guess I was just completely confused. I didn't realize that Curb had been on for so long, and it's still, just hitting on that top mark for all of these people. Schitt's Creek, absolutely a love, all of that stuff. I just recently watched What We Do in the Shadows, the movie, a couple months ago, and then watched a handful of episodes of the show. And the movie didn't stick with me because I think people overhyped it, but the show is something, I just love all the weird things that it's hitting, bringing in the different kind of genres of vampire and whatnot. The one that I'm a little, and again, I haven't watched it. I usually get my TV knowledge from my sister because she watches all of Netflix. Dead to Me. Has anyone seen that? Because I know that kind of like blew up for quite a while and was on my like, hey, this is what everyone's watching on Netflix. But then it kind of just disappeared. So I don't know if it stuck with people or not.
I personally have not watched it, but I know my girlfriends watched it. Her mom watched it. They are massive fans. They love it. I've talked to other people who've watched it and have loved it. I mean, I'm not surprised to see it in here. I was sort of expecting that, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's going to be one I'm going to have to check out. I keep getting it recommended. So yeah. But yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's great to see Insecure in there. I think is another great, to me, HBO just has the best shows like out there personally. You know, like Netflix has their you know, the Stranger Things and like the Kaminsky Method is actually really good, and whatnot, and it's great to see like FX really competing with What We Do in the Shadows. But I don't know, man. To me, HBO is just always like consistently hitting that mark, and like Insecure is another great example of that. Good to see The Good Place in there. I don't think anyone's really surprised by that in its final season, but yeah, overall, you know, it just pretty standard, to be expected from the comedy. So, okay, moving on to limited series, we have Little Fires Everywhere, Miss America, Unbelievable, Unorthodox, and Watchmen. This is great. I don't think many of us were really doubting Watchmen's chances in this category, just, you know, being one of those shows that really like you know, surpassed and really superseded the comic book genre. It was really something more than that, and the way it crossed over into the mainstream too, and kind of engaged with society, you know, and some of the stuff that we're dealing with right now, it was gonna get a nomination. So I'm just, that to me, like, I'm just happy it's in there and that they didn't overlook it. And listen, if they're going to nominate The Mandalorian for Best Outstanding Drama, they better be nominating Watchmen for, you know, Outstanding Limited Series. But Owen, going back to you, anything really on here that you're excited about?
Yeah, looking at this list, I will admit that the only one of them I've seen is Watchmen. I'm sure the others are great. They've made it onto the Emmy nominations, so they're probably good. I can rest assured that they're probably, at worst, decent. But yeah, like you said, I think Watchmen's a show that I think is kind of interesting because there was a lot of nervous anticipation towards it when it was kind of leading up to premiering, because obviously it's based on a graphic novel that is notoriously difficult to adapt. And then, of course, you've got, you know, Damon Lindelof is a very... he can go one of two ways. He can either go The Leftovers, which is, you know, one of the best shows of the last however many years, or he can go off the rails and do Lost. So a lot of people were kind of very kind of nervously and cautiously optimistic as to which way Watchmen would fall. You know, you take a guy with a strange track record, you know, on his day, very few people make television as good as Damon Lindelof does, but he also is prone to, as us Brits would describe it, dropping a clanger.
Yeah, but, I mean, yeah.
But with Watchmen, obviously, you know, it's probably my favorite show of the last year. It's something that, you know, and maybe I'm slightly biased as someone that has a lot of history and a lot of love for the source material. But the way it kind of like, it tells a story that you don't need to have read Watchmen to not only understand, but kind of like really kind of invest yourself in, which is crazy considering it's not even an adaptation. It's a sequel to a 30-year-old comic book that a lot of people watching it, the majority of people, haven't even read. And so I think that the fact that it manages to do that alone, never mind tell such a deep and kind of necessary story about race relations, about kind of like white supremacy, about criminal justice, you know, like you said, it's a show that was made a year ago that very much feels like the kind of thing a lot of studios are going to start trying to make now. In the wake of everything that's gone on this year, that feels like for something that's only a year old, it feels already kind of ahead of its time. And you know, just looking at it alone, I think it's a tremendous show, and I'm kind of not shocked at all to see it on here.
Do you think it takes the cake in this category? Do you think it wins?
Well, like I said, as I haven't seen any of the other shows, I can't really give my thoughts on that in the most kind of informed manner. But from what I've seen about the general kind of consensus towards Watchmen and everyone's kind of response to it, I don't think people would be up in arms and kind of disgusted if it won.
Yeah, I agree. Jared, anything that really sticks out to you here about this category?
Not really. I mean, obviously Watchmen, you know, when that was going on, everyone was talking about it. Plus, Owen, you make a great point of it's very timely, or the material that was in that and what is going on in the world right now, they have a lot to kind of work with. The other one that, again, my sister, she just throws shows at me, the Little Fires Everywhere, I believe, on Hulu.
Little Fires Everywhere was good. Yeah.
She said that was a really good one. I think she just randomly turned it on and just binged through it that night or the next day. So I think that's another one that I've heard quite a bit about.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'll echo a lot of what you guys said. I haven't seen Unorthodox or Miss America, but yeah, Watchmen, Little Fires, unbelievable. Actually, is really good too. I would go with Watchmen would probably be my pick to take this category. It just has that sort of energy. I think. Plus, like it's fucking superb. So, okay, moving on to Best Actor in a Drama Series, we have Jason Bateman for Ozark, Sterling K. Brown for This Is Us, Steve Carell for The Morning Show, Brian Cox for Succession, Billy Porter for Pose, and Jeremy Strong for Succession. Owen, back to you. Any of these that are any thoughts on this category?
This is a pretty strong list as far as I can see. You've got some pretty great actors and some pretty well kind of respected and praised shows. So from what I've seen I've only seen bits of The Morning Show, but when I saw that, Steve Carell is excellent in that. Same with Ozark. I kind of dipped in and out of that, but Jason Bateman has been terrific from what I've seen. I haven't seen much of This Is Us or Succession, but I'm definitely not unfamiliar to how brilliant both Jeremy Strong and Sterling K. Brown are. So from kind of my perspective, this looks like a really strong category.
Yeah, I would agree. It's stacked for sure, and I think a lot of the love is going to go towards Succession in here. It'll probably be Jeremy Strong or Brian Cox who takes it. But I agree with you. This is really strong across the board. Jared, thoughts?
Yeah, those top three, Jason Bateman, Sterling K. Brown, Steve Carell, I mean, bam, boom, look at that. And then the other three, I haven't seen them, but I'm assuming they're good. I literally just got a text from one of my buddies, and he is saying, and I'm curious what you guys have to say, there's no love for Better Call Saul here. Should there have
that's the one thing where I probably would have taken one of the Succession nominations out, or maybe Steve Carell for The Morning Show, and put in Bob Odenkirk for Better Call Saul. That to me just feels like probably the right move across the board. I think Better Call Saul was largely snubbed. It did get the Outstanding Drama Series, but a lot of the performances, like as we'll get to later on, Giancarlo Esposito did not get nominated. Bob Odenkirk didn't get nominated, and so it's interesting. I think there's a few you could have, while a strong list, there were a few you probably could have taken out here and replaced with Bob Odenkirk, to be honest. So, but all right, moving on to the next category here, we have Best Actress in a Drama Series. Jennifer Aniston for The Morning Show, Olivia Colman, The Crown, Jodie Comer, Killing Eve, Laura Linney, Ozark, Sandra Oh, Killing Eve, and my personal favorite out of the nominees, Zendaya for Euphoria, getting that Euphoria love. So stoked for it, and so stoked about it. She was just outstanding in that show. I mean, listen, there are many performances you could have nominated for Euphoria. I think Hunter Schafer probably in one of the supporting categories would have been a great pick, and so forth. But this is a solid list. It's a solid list. I really can't complain. Similar to the one above, I don't know who I would really take out. Actually, as opposed to the one above, I mean, you could probably take someone out, put Bob Odenkirk in, but in this one, I don't. I mean, to me, it feels like they hit the nail on the head with this one. But Owen?
Yeah, definitely. I've been seeing a lot of love for Zendaya in Euphoria. Like I said, it's not a show I've had a chance to watch yet, but I've for the last kind of like however long just been seeing nothing but kind of universal praise for her performance in that. Another one which I have seen and I'm really big fan of was Olivia Colman in The Crown. The year and 2 years that she's had especially has been brilliant, and she's been kind of consistently fantastic in The Crown. From what I've seen of The Morning Show, Jennifer Aniston, really good. Glad to see her here. Yeah. But from everything I'm hearing, it definitely does sound like it's Zendaya's award.
Yeah, I don't count out Sandra Oh or Jodie Comer, specifically Sandra Oh. I think she's excellent in Killing Eve, but yeah, man, I'm really, really hoping it goes to Zendaya. But Jared, any thoughts?
Yeah, we're getting that Euphoria love finally on this list.
Thank you.
All those people out there are like, where is it? I have not seen Killing Eve. I've heard a lot about it, but from Griff, what you're saying it sounds like those might be some powerhouses to go against.
For
the
sure.
one that I was leaning towards, and again, I haven't watched season 3, but Laura Linney on Ozark. I heard that she was very amazing, chilling. Like, she is phenomenal in that show.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I like she's someone who's just like consistently excellent in like everything she's in. But Ozark, it's like year after year, she's always impressive. So yeah, great to see her name on there as well. Okay, moving on to Best Actor in a Comedy Series, we have Anthony Anderson for Blackish, Don Cheadle for Black Monday, Ted Danson, The Good Place, Michael Douglas, The Kaminsky Method, Eugene Levy, Schitt's Creek, and Rami Youssef for Rami. Owen, any comments on this particular category?
Listen, man, I am like the world's singular and first and foremost Michael Douglas fan. I love everything Michael Douglas. He warms my heart in numerous ways, and seeing him get the nomination for the Kaminsky Method is great, because from what I've seen of him in that show, and what I've seen of that show, I'm slightly biased because Michael Douglas is my guy, but definitely happy. And just looking at this list, it's a lot of strong names and a lot of shows that I'm seeing a lot of love for. It's nice to see Don Cheadle get a nomination for Black Monday. Obviously, I think Ted Danson for The Good Place is probably one of the favorites. But from what I've seen, I haven't seen any of Schitt's Creek yet. But like I say, it's something I'm hearing a lot of good things about. But from what I'm seeing, it's a very strong list. And without any context, I am saying give it to Michael Douglas, because he is an international treasure.
No, for sure. I think the big one for me that excites me is Rami Youssef for Rami, just because that is that show's really sort of taken I guess I don't want to say film Twitter or all that space, but I guess I'll go with that. It's kind of taken that space by storm. People really love it. People love Rami Youssef. I remember when he won at the Golden Globes, everyone was like really shocked, but they were all like really hyped on it. And the show's produced by A24, so it's got like that hype behind it. So I don't know. For me, he's probably the front runner to win this. But again, like all performances are great. Jared, any thoughts on this one?
Personally, I knew nothing about Rami until 30 seconds ago, and I'm looking it up right now, and I'm like, man, I should probably check this out. It does look like it has a lot going for it, so I feel embarrassed. But Eugene Levy, for myself, the two that stand out, Eugene Levy, I don't know if he'll win, but Don Cheadle, nice to see him for the Black Monday. But man, that Rami one, now you've sold me on this show.
You can go watch it on Hulu.
I know.
The more you kind of say about it, the more I'm like, shit, I need to like get on this now. This sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's all really, really good. Okay, moving on to the next one. Best Actress in a Comedy Series. We have Christina Applegate for Dead to Me, Rachel Brosnahan for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Linda Cardellini for Dead to Me, Catherine O'Hara, Schitt's Creek, Issa Rae for Insecure, and Tracy Ellis Ross for Blackish. Any like thoughts across the board here for any of the nominees?
I mean, again, I mentioned the Dead to Me show that my sister had talked about. I mean, Christina, both of them up front, Linda Cardellini and Christina Applegate. But also, it's nice to see Rachel Brosnahan back on there, because she does a great job in Miss Maisel and whatnot. Yeah. I have not seen Insecure, so maybe one of you guys can fill me in on that one.
Check it out, man. Issa Rae, she's so good in that. I mean, it's her show, so like it's I hope she wins. I think she might win. I don't know. I just looking at the nominees here. I mean, Christina Applegate's great in Dead to Me, and then obviously Rachel Brosnahan from Ms. Maisel is always like a threat. But Catherine O'Hara too for Schitt's Creek. I wouldn't count her out, because she's a real comedic force there. And then like same with Tracy Ellis Ross and all them. But for sure. I don't know. I'd go with Issa Rae for this. But Owen, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, like you said, it's good to see Rachel Brosnahan get a nomination. From what I've seen of her in Miss Maisel, she's terrific. The biggest takeaway I'm getting from this is that with Dead to Me getting 2 nominations in the same acting category, there's probably a good chance that I'm going to find it pretty funny. So if there's one thing I can kind of guarantee, if the show's getting 2 Best Actress nominations, in the same category, then it's probably got some good performances. So I best check that out.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, moving on to and I just want to quickly move along through some of these other ones to get to some of our bigger topics. But best actor in a limited series or TV movie, we have Jeremy Irons for Watchmen, Hugh Jackman, Bad Education, Paul Mescal, Normal People, Jeremy Pope, Hollywood, and Mark Ruffalo. I Know This Much Is True. This is another really strong list. Mark Ruffalo for I Know This Much Is True is excellent. I mean, Bad Education is one of the best movies to have come out this year. Hugh Jackman is great. Very happy to see Paul Mescal getting some love for Normal People, which is a real. If you have not seen Normal People, it's I can't recommend it enough. Tyler Tompkins recommended it to me, and he couldn't have been more right about it. And then Jeremy Irons for Watchmen is just. Great. So good. Love to see it. Owen, quick thoughts.
Yeah, really strong list. I'm very happy to see Jeremy Irons get nominated because obviously he's fantastic in Watchmen. He has probably one of my favorite arcs in the way his character evolves throughout the show. And we kind of like, he's very much kind of like Lindelof, like went full on J.J. Abrams' mystery box with his character. Like you don't actually figure out who he is until like 5 episodes into the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's and the way kind of he unravels and you get to see more and more about him and his history, and he sells everything in that show. He really, especially towards the second half of the season, I think Irons really brings the show together in a big way. He's fantastic. But just looking at the list, I think the one I'd go for is probably Hugh Jackman for Bad Education.
Oh yeah
I think he's fucking outstanding in that. And
as
much as I like Jeremy Irons, I like Mark Ruffalo especially. I'd be quite surprised if Jackman didn't take this one.
Really? Okay, interesting. I like that pick though. He is, to me, he is a dark horse here for sure. Because I think I'd probably go Irons or Ruffalo over him, but yeah, I don't count out Jackman. Bad Education was beloved by so many people here. Jared, what do you any thoughts on this?
Yeah, just a quick thing. Hugh Jackman's the one that's standing out for me. I loved what he did in Bad Education and whatnot. But I've been hearing a lot about Mark Ruffalo in that I Know This Much Is True. But also, just looking at the chat, peeking at it, everyone's talking about Jeremy Irons. So I might have to be persuaded into Jeremy Irons here.
Listen, and if the on Emmy night the love is going to Watchmen, it might just like kind of tip the scales in that direction. I feel bad now being the
resident comic book guy, not putting my horse on Jeremy Irons.
I know, it's kind of crazy, but hey, listen,
right?
You're going with category.
Wolverine instead. Come on.
True. Yeah. Like I'm trying to think who would win in a fight, Ozymandias or Wolverine. I know who my money's got going on.
For sure. All right. And then moving on to Best Actress in a Limited Series or Television Movie, which I believe is our last category here. We have Cate Blanchett for Miss America, Shira Haas for Unorthodox, Regina King for Watchmen, Octavia Spencer, Self-Made, and Kerry Washington for Little Fires Everywhere. Look, congrats to all the other nominees for getting nominated, but this is going to Regina King. Like it is going to Regina King for Watchmen because this is that was her show. She was unbelievable in it. There was no doubt in my mind that she was going to get the nomination. And that similar to what we were talking about when we were talking about Watchmen, it was just like, it's so timely. It was actually really ahead of its time. And her whole arc is so powerful, so beautiful, and she just acts the hell out of that role. So I can't see anyone else getting it but Regina King. But Owen, any final thoughts on this?
Yeah, like you said, it's got to be Regina King. I think for me that was one of the best performances of last year in any
100%
media, whether if film, television, genre. What she did with that character and essentially carried that show on her back was just it's as near as kind of like a perfect performance in a genre show as you're going to find.
Yeah,
the way that kind of she carries a lot of the heavy themes and ideas at the heart of the show and kind of like splits it off into all the different groups of characters that are kind of doing their things throughout the show. She's very much the anchor of it, and I think a lot of the reason for Watchmen being the success that it was lies to Regina King. I think if you don't resonate with that character and if that character doesn't work, the entire show would kind of fall apart. And I think that absolutely outstanding, and she definitely deserves all the love she's going to get for it.
Yeah, 100%. Jared?
You guys have sold me on Watchmen, Regina King, everything. I feel like I gotta, after we get off this, I just need to go to HBO Max and watch that right now.
Just watch everything on HBO Max, honestly.
Yeah, essentially everything.
Yeah. No. All right, guys. Well, that's gonna do it here for the Emmy nominations. Be sure to let us know your thoughts and opinions on all of the nominations that we discussed down in the comment section below. What were your biggest surprises? Your biggest snubs? Obviously, we didn't cover some of the below the line categories just for the sake of time. Otherwise, we'd be here all day. And we want to get to some other news topics. But yeah, be sure to let us know your thoughts and opinions on this year's Emmy nominations down in the comment section below. We'd love to hear about them. Okay, so moving on to the topic of today. You clicked on the thumbnail, probably not expecting Emmy nominations, but you were expecting this particular story, which gets me really excited. So Hailee Steinfeld, she might be joining the Hawkeye series, which I know that's sort of been in the rumor mill for a while now, but according to the Illuminati, it might be official. So according to them and their report, the production of Hawkeye is hoping to ramp back up in Atlanta, Georgia this October. The 6-episode limited series will center, as widely reported, on the Avengers Hawkeye mentoring his protege, Kate Bishop, in an effort to pass on his superhero mantle. So, according to the report, Jeremy Renner and Hailee Steinfeld are officially set to star as Clint Barton and Kate Bishop, respectively. I can't pronounce names for whatever reason right now. Which, I mean, we all knew Jeremy Renner was going to be in it, but Hailee Steinfeld, that is, the new addition here. So Steinfeld has long been rumored to be circling Hawkeye. In fact, reports of her being offered the role surfaced as early as last year, which I'm sure many of you who have followed, Marvel news, comic book news, and all that stuff, you remember all that. While they weren't able to find out the nature of the delayed announcement or the details of her negotiations, she is now, according to the Illuminati, firmly listed as set on the project. So I'm going to turn this over to Owen, our resident comic book expert here, who just had to spend the first 30 minutes of the show talking about television. So
what's a television?
I know, who knows? Owen, first of all, do you believe this news that Hailee Steinfeld is going to be in the Hawkeye series? And then also, does that excite you? And then thirdly, do you think that this is going to be sort of like an ushering in of Kate Bishop and a phasing out of Clint Barton?
So, yeah, like you said, this news kind of feels like it's been on the verge of happening for about a year now, pretty much since the announcement was made about the initial Marvel shows on Disney Plus, and since the announcement that they were doing a Hawkeye series. Pretty much the only name that's been associated with that co-lead role has been Steinfeld, and I think that from what I've seen of her, obviously Bumblebee probably been the biggest one recently.
Yeah.
And from knowing the character that she's most likely playing in Kate Bishop, I think she's a great choice. She's definitely an actress that's on the rise. And I think that from what I've heard about these Disney Plus Marvel shows is they're going to be, just because they're television now doesn't mean they aren't going to kind of connect back to the films at a later date. It's not going to be a case with like the shows on Netflix where it was very distinctive. These are the movies, these are the shows. Don't expect any crossover. Like, they're kind of being written and produced in such a way that if Hailee Steinfeld's character shows up in a Marvel, in an MCU film or in an Avengers film or whatever, it's not meant to be like this huge deal. There's meant to be a great deal of interconnectivity. Obviously, the big talking point of the show since it was announced is that it's going to adapt the My Life as a Weapon series by Matt Fraction, which is like, look, if there are any Hawkeye fans watching this, you're going to get upset when I say it. It's the only Hawkeye book anyone's ever heard of.
But not even that. It's
good Hawkeye.
It's the best.
Book.
It's genuinely,
fantastic comic book. It is really one of the best things Marvel Comics have put out in the last decade. Matt Fraction is a terrific writer. He's done loads of great stuff, and kind of his reinvention of Hawkeye in this miniseries is one of the best possible things they could turn into a Disney Plus series. It's very much kind of tailor-made to be turned into a limited series. And like you said, it's very much the story of kind of Clint starting to kind of phase out of being a full-time superhero and starting to try and pass the mantle down. And obviously with the direction that his character went, obviously I was tweeting yesterday about rewatching Endgame last night and seeing what he goes through throughout that movie and where he is when it ends off. I'm very much excited to see how Jeremy Renner plays the role of kind of being the kind of more jaded and weary mentor, trying to kind of pass on both kind of his successes and failings to Hailee Steinfeld. I think, without knowing a lot of the source material necessarily, I just think that premise alone in those two actors makes for what's hopefully going to be a great show.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And you touched on something interesting about the nature of the fraction run, which is that well, and actually, you didn't inherently bring this up, but it made me think of it. But the fraction run is actually set in a post like Avengers world. Like it takes place after the events of Joss Whedon's 2012 Avengers movie, and so like to integrate this into the MCU as a series, it makes sense. It's like you've already got your elements in place. It's already kind of set in that world, so you just got to put it, a little bit more in the future, and you can basically have at it adapting it. But yeah, no, I agree for you. I think where they've left off Jeremy Renner's character, I think it's it does make sense where he would be mentoring someone to sort of like take over the mantle. And like everyone loves Kate Bishop. I mean, she is so great in the comics. And I think getting an actress with the I don't think people really give Hailee Steinfeld enough credit for how great of an actress she is. I mean, she was probably the best part of True Grit. She was amazing in Edge of 17. Bumblebee is phenomenal. So it's like she really excels in those sort of those young adult sort of roles, even though she's obviously much older than that. And I think putting her in a position like this, where it's like she starts off kind of like very green, but there's a lot of room to grow. I could see her just like running with that character progression and whatnot.
Kind of like what we said with how Marvel are kind of wanting actors in these films to kind of be able to do film and television. The idea that, once this show concludes, we'll likely see Kate Bishop's character show up in the next Avengers movie or whatever. Steinfeld it's not like she's an actress that's kind of exclusively on television. She's done a lot of big films and a lot of successful movies. So it's for sure. The profile of an actress Marvel would probably get for a female lead in an MCU film anyway, just brought to television. So I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And Jared, before we go to you, I do want to say, so Joe Inc. in the chat saying a supporting role for Hailee is a wrong direction for her after Bumblebee. I see her as playing Supergirl in a movie or Batgirl. Well, here's the thing, Joe. I don't. If they're going to cast Hailee Steinfeld to play Kate Bishop, she's in it for the long haul, and she probably will make crossovers over. In fact, this will probably be the jumping off point for like a future Young Avengers movie or like a series or something like that, seeing as Kate Bishop is an integral part in that team up of heroes and whatnot. So if they're signing on Hailee Steinfeld, they want her to take over the mantle of Hawkeye. They're going to phase Renner out and then maybe jumpstart some new stuff with her. So I don't think that she's signing on for a supporting role, because in the comics, she is very much like a co-lead. So yeah, Jared, going to you. Any thoughts on this? Do you believe the fact that Hailee Steinfeld is going to be playing Kate Bishop? What do you make of all this?
I want to say yes, and the funny thing is, like, this news came out yesterday, and I had to scratch my head because I'm like, I thought she already had the role, because it's that whole rumor mill of it's on, it's off, she's in, she's out, and I was like, oh, okay, well, now she's back in. But I think, out of anyone else, I don't know if we've really even heard of anyone that could potentially be in this running aside from her. And just looking at her stature compared to what Kate Bishop looks like, and along with, Bumblebee, I'm glad you brought up Edge of 17, because I watched that a couple months ago and was blown away by her performance. I think that she could make this, take on the mantle, learn from Renner, but also make it completely her own. And you're not going to get someone of her age. And again, she's not 18, but you're going to get this person for 10 years. You're not going to go like that's why you're going for this character. I mean, mind you, the lore and everything matches up with the age and whatnot. But I think that she can progress essentially what she's done in these other films. She can be that not leader essentially, but be one of the main people. Carry her own and make it her own. So I'm on board for it. I don't know who else is going to potentially scoop in there and take his role from her. But it will. I mean, isn't that what Disney and Marvel had kind of said, that these new shows are tying in with the movies? Yeah. So
I mean, there'll definitely be some crossover and such. But so in the chat I see we've got a lot of people who are not fans of Hawkeye. Joe, not a fan of Hawkeye. Sorry.
He doesn't have powers.
Art Westwood say, Joe agreed. 402 saying, not going to watch Hawkeye. I have no interest. Listen, guys.
Listen,
I get
there's one good Hawkeye story, and it's this show.
It is this one, the Matt Fraction run of Hawkeye.
No one cares about Hawkeye in any other capacity. I'm sorry. And if anyone is watching this that likes Hawkeye, look, man, do your thing. I'm happy for you. But come on. It's Matt Fraction run. It's My Life as a Weapon. And if you're watching this and you're thinking Hawkeye kind of sucks, not really feeling this. Like, I get it. I'm not exactly a regular reader of the Hawkeye comic book series, or I don't have any Jeremy Renner posters up behind me.
Oh, come on.
So
you do have a vinyl of his album though, right?
Oh, I mean and I was on his social media for a brief time.
Nice.
I forgot about that.
But I do think that even if you're not a fan of the Hawkeye character so far, or the Jeremy Renner version of the character, I do think you should probably give the show a chance, because if it's as good as the book they're adapting, then it is probably going to be one of the better shows that Marvel put out.
Yeah, because you put it perfectly. Let's face it. It's the only Hawkeye story that people know. It's the only good one. But why would they adapt anything else?
Yeah, but it's like, I don't mean that as a negative sense. Like, use another character, for example, like Moon Knight. When anyone talks about Moon Knight, we talk about the run by a very famous comic book writer whose name I'm not going to mention right now. A very, very famous recent run that that is like the definitive Moon Knight story. If you're telling a Moon Knight film or a Moon Knight show, you will go to do that. And it's probably around the same time that the Fraction Hawkeye series came out.
Gosh,
I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean that, like, this is really the definitive Hawkeye story, and it's one of the best things Marvel have done in the last couple of years. So, even if you're not a fan of the character so far, if it's as good as the book is, then I think this has potential to be a really great show.
Yeah, man, seriously. Like, and when I read, I love comics, and I'll read a nice variety of them, but like, I'm also really picky. And so like when this series was first coming out, I remember going to the comic book shop and just like searching around. I was like, well, I don't know. I'm not really feeling any of this. Like, I'm kind of hesitant to jump in halfway into an arc. And it was right when the Matt Fraction series started. So it's like, I read that whole thing, single issue, just like month after month after month. And I could not get enough of it, from the art style, the way in which it was written, the integration of the characters, and like exploring, I don't know. It's like, it basically deals with the fact that like this guy is an assassin, and he's not like, he's not Iron Man. He's not a billionaire. He's not a super soldier. He is literally just a guy, and he gets the shit beaten out of him, and he takes a hit. And it's like, he's got his dog and everything. It's just, oh man, it's so good. It's just like classic. I don't know. It felt like classic Marvel comics to me. Mm-hmm. So I love that run so much. So yeah, highly recommend reading that if you're interested, but also it gets me more excited for this Hawkeye series. Like, the second they announced this at D23 last year, I was like, yes, I have wanted this forever. And if Hailee Steinfeld is going to play Kate Bishop, which I also, I'm kind of buying this. It wasn't just the Illuminati who reported it. There were like Jeremy Conrad was saying stuff about it and other stuff. I'm like, look, unless it's reported by the trades, it's probably not official, but there are people who, who are we trust enough in this space. And so I am inclined to believe that this show is going to be great, that she's going to be in it. And so I'm digging it. But guys, let us know your thoughts and opinions on Hailee Steinfeld joining the Hawkeye series. Do you think she's the perfect fit for Kate Bishop? Is there someone else you'd rather see in the role? Are you excited for the series as a whole? Let us know down in the comments section below. Hopefully we get some Hawkeye fans in there. I know no one is really excited for this, but here's holding out hope. But all right, moving on to the next topic, which is Tenet. Every week we got to talk about Tenet because Warner Brothers just likes to play games with us. So Tenet's got a new release date. So from an official announcement from WB, I believe it reads as the following. Today, Warner Brothers announced that Tenet will open in over 70 countries worldwide starting on August 26th. Major territories will include Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Korea, Russia, Spain, and the United Kingdom. The film will open in the United States over Labor Day weekend in select cities. So, Jared, I'm going to go to you first. I believe you were on last week when we talked about Tenet, so it'll be nice to kind of get your follow-up thoughts on this.
Oh, man.
What does this mean going forward? Do you think that it's going to change again? And then also, will other studios with upcoming tentpole releases adopt a similar mentality?
Yeah. If this changes one more time, I am done talking about this movie. I'm done because every week they're toying with me. They're like, oh, it's this date. But this is kind of the rumor that was going around last week where they're going to throw it out a week before Labor Day here in the States, and then we're going to get it Labor Day. I hope it sticks. I'm just curious because I had kind of mentioned last week, the whole, is this going to be a huge increase in pirating? How are they going to, control this and whatnot? And sure, there's going to be copies out there. It's not, you're going to want to watch it on a big screen, big sound and everything. You're not going to want to watch it on, a cell phone video. I'm curious because WB, they keep moving it and moving it and moving it. Within this next month, could something drastic happen and then they just completely are like, okay, this was the final straw. Let's move it to 2021. I think they're going to stick to their guns here.
I think they are too. Yeah.
They kind of, before this, the last couple weeks, they were a little skittish. They were like, I don't know, maybe not, but this is an official announcement.
Yeah.
I guess my thing, for the world people out there, good job. You guys beat this crazy pandemic. You guys get the movie. For us in the States, the one thing that I'm a little weary about is when they say select cities. Because usually when that happens, it's not going to be anywhere near me. It's going to be the bigger stuff like Chicago, LA, New York, whatnot. But it's this weird roundabout thing where it's like, do you want to have that in the bigger cities where there's more cases? Again, this gets into a whole different topic.
Well, here's the other thing. I think it's actually going to be the reverse of that. It's not going to be in the big cities because the big cities don't have this stuff under control.
And
it's
that's
gonna be,
yep.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead. If you were going there, then yeah.
No, that's you picked up right where I was gonna go. That's the way it usually goes. I think that they're gonna reel this back, and it's gonna go to these smaller places that have kind of, I wouldn't say more rural, but like places that somehow have this under control. So who knows? Maybe I could get lucky. And
Jared, you're gonna get it before the rest of it.
I don't know. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Who wants to come hang out? I have a couch. Come on. But I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are because I don't want to take up this whole time.
No, you're fine. Owen, as the person who's gonna get Tenet before the rest of us here, does this make you excited?
Look, I think we can all agree that Christopher Nolan is usually a very straight-laced, calm, serious individual, very kind of like sit up straight, has his shit together.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of getting the impression that at this point he has to be holding the executives at Warner Brothers hostage, literally, for this film not to get delayed until next year. Like, he's one more pushback away from turning into Patrick Bateman at this point. I am convinced. In all seriousness, though, like, obviously, the big conversation regarding Tenet for the last however many months has been, pushing it back. How far should they push it back? And I'm kind of very much in the camp of, talking about this Labor Day release, where it's in select theaters in the States and select countries internationally, how is it going to make the amount of money that the studio wants it to make? Like, clearly Warner Brothers are banking on this being the big $1 billion film of 2020.
Sure, yeah.
And I think, as soon as the world kind of went into lockdown, any idea of any film making $1 billion in cinemas kind of went out the window with it. But I get why Nolan wants this film in cinemas. One, because it is so clearly made to be shown on a big screen. And I would, even if it was sent to streaming, I wouldn't really want to watch it on a phone or on a computer or on a TV. It's just not, it wouldn't be it just wouldn't be right. But with the same time, it's like, Nolan is such an ardent believer in the theater experience and in the tradition of the cinema that he basically wants to like single-handedly stop cinema chains from going under with his movie. And I get that, and I admire that. And as someone that does love cinema and does love the experience of going to cinemas and watching movies the way movies are intended to be made, it's one of the reasons why I'm such a fan and I respect Nolan so much for that. But at the same time, it's like, we talk about it, how it's going to get released over in the UK. I am not ready to go back to a cinema yet. Just because, not to kind of get too into social issues, just because the government over here has opened cinemas up and said, it's safe enough to start going again, doesn't mean that, I think it's a good idea to go. Over the last kind of month or so over here, shops and kind of restaurants and bars have started to open up, and there are kind of like socially distanced measures in place. A few cinemas have already, like a handful of cinema chains have already started opening select locations across the country over here. But like, I still don't know how I feel about the idea of cinemas. And it's also stuff like a lot of public spaces now in the UK, they're starting to make wearing masks mandatory. So like in shops, in kind of like supermarkets, masks are now mandatory in order to go in. It's like, in such an enclosed environment, obviously there'll probably only be like a third or kind of a half full capacity in a theater room anyway. But like, still, like, your options are either make masks mandatory in the cinema, and then the cinema chain is going to lose out because obviously a lot of their profit comes from food and drinks. So they're not going to want people wearing masks because then they can't eat and drink. But then the same token, if the cinemas aren't enforcing people to wear masks in such enclosed environments, I don't think I'm, too keen on that idea. So, and, obviously it's probably different for you guys over in the States where, the situation is a bit different to ours. But even like as someone overseas where things are in comparison maybe a bit better, I'd still feel a lot more confident. And I think for me, it would have made more sense for them to just say, right, February, March of next year, we're going to like front of the line next year, like kickstart the kind of the lost year of movies with this, and kind of, because it's like, with a lot of films pushing it back a year, it's like, you've already spent so much on marketing. How much can you show? It's like, the good thing about the Tenet marketing is the more I see, the less I know of this movie. I could get 4 more trailers and I'd still not have a clue what is going on in this film. But I feel like it's going to end up, the decision to get it out in August or whenever they're planning on releasing it is probably going to end up not being a great move, because I think they will make less than they would pushing it back to next year because of the weirdly staggered release. But then the other side, it's like, well, what happens if early next year things aren't as good as we're hoping? What if we can't do it then? Is this movie ever going to come out? Is Tenet the new Mutants?
I mean, listen,
it's a weird situation. But, for me personally, if it does open kind of Labor Day, kind of end of August, early September time, I'm not sure. If there's one thing that could bring me back to a cinema in the middle of a global pandemic, it is a new Christopher Nolan movie. And like, look, Chris, I love you. Almost all of your films are amazing. We know which one I'm talking about. I've got to get that shade in there. Like, if there's one thing that could like really kind of convince me to go to a cinema, it is to see a new Chris Nolan movie. But look, I have my reservations right now, unfortunately, and I think a lot of people feel that way. So I don't know how smart this is, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's well, I don't know. It's interesting because I know there are countries in Europe, mainland Europe, where it's like where things are almost like 100% ready to go. Like I know, like Dennis here, who's from Germany, he basically is saying that here it's like basically 100% safe at the moment. So if it opens, hell yeah, I'm gonna go. Which like I get it, and I think for Tenet, this is probably the right move. Open it up internationally to the countries that have handled this pandemic correctly, and then obviously do a slow rollout in the United States. I think drive-ins are going to be a big thing too in the U.S. I think you're going to see this film playing on a ton of, just hit my mic here, a ton of drive-in theaters, like especially in those like central hubs like L.A., New York, Chicago, places like that. You might not be able to go to the proper theater to go see it, but you will be able to go to a drive-in theater to see it. So I think they're going to stick to their guns on this because of how many times they have just played chicken with the release date. If I were Warner Brothers, I'd be saying, look, if we wanted to make money, we would have pushed it to next year. If we were that concerned with profits, we would have maybe pushed it back to 2022. But we want to make a statement, and we want to release this film during a time when the theater chains are in dire need of support and new content. And so, I mean, that obviously aligns with what Nolan wants to do. Nolan doesn't care about making a profit on this film. Obviously, he's still bathing in the money he made off of the Dark Knight trilogy. So I don't think he's worried about that either. And also, I will say, most of his films make a good portion of their money internationally. I think the thing that kind of surprises me is that they're going ahead with this without knowing, how it can play in China, which is one of the biggest markets in the world. So that kind of paired with the whole mentality here leads me to believe that, they're definitely willing to take a hit on this, maybe a minimal hit or a large hit. They're prepared for it, but they're also going to leave it in theaters for a longer period of time. And so it'll be going back to how they used to release movies back in, like 50s, 60s, all that stuff, and so maybe it will make its money back just because of the prolonged theatrical release. So, that paired with, drive-ins, paired with select theaters, paired with an international release, it's not ideal. It won't make as much money right off the bat, but it is probably the right way to go about releasing this if they wanted to release it this year, which I don't think this movie is make no mistake, it's coming out this year. They are making it so that it comes out this year, and I think the release date that they have selected is probably their best bet because it's right before we might get we may or may not we will get a second wave. So it's like if you're releasing it during flu season and when all this stuff is getting worse, no one's going to go see it. But if you're releasing it towards the end of the summer, that whole thing, I think you stand a better chance of the movie performing well. And then also, it basically secures Oscar nominations for the film. So
yeah, I was about to say that the one person who's probably hoping this film doesn't come out is Leigh Whannell, because it's like, as it stands, he's got that Best Director Oscar.
Does. Yeah,
he's got that lock, so he's...
Yeah, it's like him and Spike Lee are the only two right now that are like battling for that. But now Nolan throwing his film out there. It's like, well, listen, guys, it was great seeing you, but I think Tenet's going to be sweeping all the awards this year. But again, that's if the Oscars even happen, which I mean, they may decide to postpone those or combine 2020 and 2021 into like 1 year. Really weird, really strange. But I guess the other thing that I want to kind of push to you guys, the final question on this, do you think that other studios will adopt a similar strategy? because we have No Time to Die coming out in November. We have Black Widow coming out in November. There's Dune is still set on the release calendars for whatever reason. I couldn't think of a worse time to release Dune, a movie that desperately needs a marketing push, and that is already alienating a good portion of their audience because of what it is. What do you think is this gonna be the new norm going forward, Jared? I guess starting with you, or actually Owen, if you want to start first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I definitely feels like every other studio is kind of waiting on Warner Brothers to make their move. It kind of feels like it's a situation where once one studio and one film kind of puts their cards on the table and says, "This is what we're doing. We are not changing. This is the plan." I feel like all the other big studios and all the smaller studios with them are going to start to kind of follow suit. I think everyone's just kind of waiting for one of the big tentpole films to say, "We are coming out in August. We are coming out in November or whenever. This is happening." But it does very much feel like that Disney, like Universal, like everyone else is kind of just waiting to see what Warner Brothers do with Tenet.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Jared?
Yeah, it really just comes down to almost this weird business thing now where they're, I'm assuming, running all of these models because they're like, okay, half the movie theaters don't even exist. Out of that, only half the capacity. Out of that, how many people are going to go? Let's have this in there for 6 months. If we do this and run the numbers, like, will it be profitable? I mean, maybe a year, 2 years from now, who knows? It might be profitable. But it is literally, you can run as many tests as numbers, finances, all that stuff as you can. It really comes down to you rolling the dice. It is a gamble because if you push this off, things could get worse. You push it off, things could get way better. You do it now, you hope for the best. And I think that that's what they're doing. And again, I think we're both, or all three of us are on the same page where everyone's standing in the wings waiting for someone, in this case Tenet and Warner Brothers, to do something. If this proves that this gets people out to the theaters a little bit more than it has been, I think some of these movies they're going to start pushing out there. Again, it's going to be a longer run in the movie theater. But then it comes down to this thing where I'm almost contradicting myself because, okay, it will come out. But how many movie theaters are going to open just for this one movie to be in it? Because, for an example, I have 3 AMCs in my town. 2 of them are really shitty. 1 of them is okay. On opening night, usually there's 15 people in the movie theater. How many people is it going to take for them to go to this movie for that theater to even stay open?
I guess that's true.
It really comes down to kind of like everyone's sitting there waiting for someone to do something because Tenet comes out, movie theaters open. Movie theaters aren't going to probably open up all of them, but Tenet is going to be there. So we're going to see it. It's just going to be such a weird, it's such a fascinating thing, I guess, is just to see how this plays out.
Yeah. Well, and I guess the other thing is listen, it will be one of the most pirated movies ever. I just have to believe that people would rather actually go see it in a theater or in a drive-in or whatever than watch a really shitty cam version from some theater in, I don't know, Greenland or whatever. You know, like I don't think. I mean, I don't know. There are people out there who do that, and they do it to just spoil movies, and it's annoying. And I'm probably going to have to stay off of Twitter when this happens. But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a weird sort of thing. But you bring up a good point, Jared, with the chain reaction thing, because this whole Universal started the whole VOD craze. Like
I was just going to say they dabbled in that, and it kind of worked. So they're going to maybe keep doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, if that worked with that, okay, so then people are starting to formulate their own strategies around that. Tenet releases, does that cause other studios to do something similar? You know, who knows? But I think for me, I don't know, out of all the films that are set to come out, I could see, and maybe I'm biased because I just want the damn thing to come out and because it was about to come out right before everything shut down. But I think No Time to Die has a good chance of maybe doing something similar because it's another film where the international market is more fruitful for it than the U.S. domestic market. And also, I don't know. I just can't. It's so irritating that a fully finished Cary Fukunaga Bond film is just sitting on some dude's hard drive. Probably Cary Fukunaga is probably sitting on his hard drive just waiting to get distributed to whoever. And I'm like literally at the point where I'm just like, if it leaked, I wouldn't be mad. If it dropped on demand, I wouldn't be mad. I'd watch it. I know you filmed some sequences in IMAX, but listen, guys, I just want to see this damn movie. But on a more serious note, I do think that is a film that could possibly adopt a similar thing. But it's interesting because drive-ins, man. I think drive-ins are going to be the thing that that really keeps the theatrical experience for a while now. But,
yeah, Griff, I'm glad you bring up that whole drive-in thing because a lot of the one around here is fully functional. They've actually added a couple screens, I believe, but also there was this news story a couple weeks ago, and again, this is only strictly to the States, I believe, but 160 plus Walmarts across the country are starting August 1st, I think, doing drive-ins in their parking lot.
I did.
So
I saw that. Yeah,
that could be in a roundabout way be another revenue maker for this movie if there's more drive-ins for people.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But guys, the most important thing is, what do you all think? We want to hear your thoughts and opinions on Tenet's new release date, its international release, possibly, Labor Day weekend release here in the U.S. We want to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. And then also, what is going to be the next film that adopts a similar release strategy to Tenet? Should Warner Brothers follow through with all of this? We want to hear about it down in the comments section below. Okay, let's see. Moving on to the next topic here. I think I'm going to move ahead here and do some comic-oriented stuff, some Justice Con recaps, some San Diego Comic-Con recaps, and all that good stuff. So, over the weekend, we had both at-home San Diego Comic-Con, which let's just be real here. They completely ripped off the at-home Comic-Con that Owen, Matt Draper, and I'm sorry, who was the other guy who put it together with you guys? Yes, Drake. Comic Drakes. Yeah. Completely ripped off your idea, and I might add, was nowhere near as good. It was, in my mind, the at-home San Diego Comic-Con this year was an absolute flop. None of the panels were interesting except for it was cool to see the New Mutant stuff and the Guillermo del Toro thing, Nosferatu, but on the whole there wasn't a lot that really made me wish that I was at home watching all of these panels. So I don't know. I guess so. That was over the weekend, and then we also had Justice Con, which was over the weekend, which was put together by a bunch of fans and people involved with the Snyder Cut movement, and that did gangbusters. A fan, it just kind of shows the power of fandom, and that sometimes you don't need the big corporations or whatever to sanction a convention, a virtual convention, or put together this stuff. It's like the best stuff, I think, is put together by people with passion and an understanding about this. And I'm not saying the people at Comic-Con don't do this, because they literally are part of a thing called San Diego Comic-Con, so I think they know what they're doing. But it's just, this year, I don't know, man. Justice Con was more impressive. Owen, your at-home Comic-Con was still one of the best virtual conventions I think I've seen this year, and you were raising money for charity, which I believe Justice Con also did a little bit. I can't remember, but anyways, yeah. So we have these two events going on at the same time, and obviously we'll get into some specifics with Justice Con, but just right off the bat there, I guess, what were you guys' overall thoughts on both Justice Con and San Diego Comic-Con? Do you think that San Diego Comic-Con at home was a success? And then how do you feel about Justice Con doing better statistics and numbers than San Diego? Starting with you, Owen.
So my biggest takeaway from San Diego Comic-Con last weekend was so Griffin, you remember when myself, Matt, and Drake put on the at-home Comic-Con event? Yeah. Some 20 years ago, it feels like. I
feel so long. It really does.
It genuinely feels like it was at least a year ago. And the whole concept of space and time has gone out the window. So I can't even tell you when it actually was. Was it in April? Yeah. Was it in May? Was it yesterday? I don't know. But yeah, like, my biggest takeaway was like, after we did that event, I've never felt more exhausted in my life. Like that was I think, because obviously, like, even when we weren't on the panels, myself and Matt and Drake were running things behind the scenes and making sure that other panels were ready to go and coordinating everything and, you know, working the social medias. And of course, we were doing like the charity stuff. We were doing giveaways. I remember like we worked like 14, 15 hour day, a day for that. And I remember finishing it and talking to Matt, and we were both just like, never again. We were so exhausted. I was like, I felt hungover afterwards. It was just, it physically, like, I didn't think sitting at my computer and talking about, you know, movies and comics was going to like drain me so much, but it did. And I feel like, you know, fortunately 10 years later now I've recovered okay. And, you know, I don't feel as tired about it. But every time I'm scrolling through Twitter and I see Comic-Con at home, it's like a sense of dread.
Flashbacks. Like,
I'm like getting like Nam flashbacks. I'm like, oh God, no. But in real talk, San Diego Comic-Con probably does owe me money, and if they want to send that over, that'd be much appreciated. But also, do you reckon that Comic-Con are wishing they just didn't put on a show this year? Because it's funny, because like, you know, both kind of in the film space and then in the kind of like the geekdom comic book space.
Sure.
San Diego Comic-Con is like the highlight event of the year. And like the weekend when that happens, it dominates the internet. That is like the thing. And it's like this year, no one cared. Literally, like it wasn't. I haven't seen, the only thing I've seen people talk about from San Diego Comic-Con this weekend was that New Mutants panel.
Yeah,
that's it.
Well, that's the
like,
thing.
You know, so much of what makes, sorry to cut you off there, but so much of what makes Comic-Con such a big thing is, you know, especially for everyone that goes to San Diego Comic-Con and, you know, manages to like queue outside Hall H for like 13 hours beforehand to get in and just witness Kevin Feige's face or whatever they go for, probably for news and announcements, I assume. It's very much kind of like to be in kind of like the room where it happens, to be there and to witness this. And then there's a sort of spectacle to that. Yeah. Even like, you know, the first person online to read the news that Josh Trank's making a Fantastic Four sequel. You know, just to see that kind of news and to see, for the record, that's not happening. I can guarantee it.
Scoop.
I read his letterboxd review of that movie. There is no chance. But it's like, you know, there's so much spectacle and kind of like almost like a grandioseness around San Diego Comic-Con usually. And this year it was what, like a handful of pre-recorded Zoom calls?
Yeah, that's like, the thing, man. Yeah.
And it's like there was nothing to announce. Like as soon as like Marvel and DC said that they were basically not taking part properly, there was nothing to kind of entice people in. And like obviously when they did the Justice Con and they did all the stuff about the Snyder Cut, like at least that has things to, you know, announce. At least, you know, they dropped the footage, you know, the t-shirt stuff they dropped, which I actually thought was awesome.
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah.
I thought that was a great thing. But I've seen, like you said, I've seen so much more talk of Justice Con than I have of actual San Diego Comic Con. It's crazy.
That's the thing. Yeah, I know it's nuts to think about that, but I agree with you. I think it was just like the lack of content or the lack of interesting content. And you're spot on when you talk about this. You go to experience the spectacle in person. You can't replicate that virtually. You go to see Kevin Feige, you know, Mahershala Ali surprise everyone and come out as Blade. You don't get that online. It is a show for all intents and purposes, at least Hall H is. And then you also don't get, and then you like roaming the actual convention floor. That's a lot of fun. It's probably like my favorite thing to do there. You can't replicate that virtually. So right off the bat, you're going in with something where it's like you don't have the exclusivity, you don't have the spectacle, and so people are less inclined to tune in. Add on top of that, Marvel's not going to be there. DC's having their own fan event. No other interesting projects are being announced. You aren't even dropping New Mutants. I mean, sure, we got new footage and whatnot, and that was like that generated enough buzz, but like, you know, it's nothing's going on there. I thought for a little bit that maybe they would drop Antlers online. Not that that's going to really like blow anyone's minds, but you know, it's a genre film. There's a lot of horror fans. Like that could have like stolen the convention, but yeah, nothing happened. And it was just I agree with you. It was a bunch of pre-recorded Zoom calls. They weren't even live, so you don't even have that audience interaction. Yeah, exactly. I mean, granted, it probably would have been damn near impossible. Just look at, you know, what happened with JusticeCon when they did that live. They were just chats were just going and going and going. It was so hard to like keep track of it. So, it would have been hard, but at least it would have been authentic and live. And I understand why they did it pre-recorded, because it's easier, and like managing a whole bunch of live streams is a goddamn nightmare. But like, I don't know. It just shows that, you know, it all depends on what is there. And when you don't have the physical experience of going to these things and seeing it for yourself, it all relies on what content you have, and if you don't have the content to back it up, who cares? I know that's sort of how I felt, you know, just over the weekend. But
just as a side note, I'm quite interested to go and look at the data and see just how well Comic-Con at home kind of trended and how well it did online, because I would quite like to be able to update the At Home Comic-Con Twitter bio and say it was the most successful at-home Comic-Con event of
you do that. Yeah, honestly, I do that.
Like, we're starting a war now. We're gonna this is gonna be like BVS and Civil War. We're
yes,
I'm gonna next year.
You want to go to war?
I think for myself, this was on the calendar of like, oh, I need to like be ready to, you know, do reactions, news stories, videos and stuff. Yeah. Then some things happened and I ended up going camping this weekend. So I was checking my phone. I didn't see anything aside from New Mutants.
You must have been thinking that like you had no signal, or like your data was like,
I really did. That's what I thought pretty much this whole time. And again, after hearing you guys talk about it, because I didn't check up on any of the panels or whatnot, it was all pre-recorded. So it's kind of like, well, just give me a one-page news story of this is what's happening, this is what's happening, this is what's happening. I'm sure that there's a lot of people. I know my brother, for example, he wanted exclusive pops and stuff. So people were popping online to get merch and whatnot. But
that's always going to do well. Yeah. And by the way, just as a quick side, the way Funko handled the drop of their online exclusives was god awful.
Yep.
I mean, it was absolute trash. I sat there at the checkout with a spinning wheel under shipping, and there are only two options. You either get it for free or you pay like $6 or something like that. Only two options. I sat there for like, oh God, I swear it was an hour, and I lost basically everything that I wanted. It was stupid.
Yeah. I think the same thing happened to him. I think he's gonna have to buy through, you know, someone who gobbled up everything. But it just, I don't think that they prepped the way that they should have. Again, you know, like no one planned for this. They canceled it whenever, and then they only had a handful of months. But it's also this funny thing. I mean, more credit to Owen here. People on the internet are doing better than corporations with money. Lots of monies.
Yeah.
That should show you something, that these people, you should reach out to them and potentially get their insight or even hire them. That's a whole different thing of us, of me pimping out us here, but that's what it should have been.
Well, yeah, if you're doing it this way, reach out to the people who know what they're doing and who know how to bring in an internet-based crowd. I just think it's a case of San Diego Comic-Con not knowing how to entice people online. There's a way to do it, for sure. But also, you know, if you don't have the content to back it up, no one's going to show up. So reach out to people like Owen. Reach out to the people who, you know, did JusticeCon.
And another thing that I had to laugh about, because again, my Twitter and whatnot was really not updating. But when I saw that black suited Superman and stuff, I thought JusticeCon was part of Comic-Con, and then I just found out yesterday it was two separate things, and I'm like, I heard way more about that one than the actual San Diego Comic-Con.
That's the thing, man. It's Justice Con did really well. I like kudos to them too. Like honestly, like it was impressive, you know, like what they were able to do, how they were able to rally the fans, make noise, get Zack Snyder on there, Ray Fisher, Deborah Snyder, on all of them. Like it was really something special. I don't know. Did you guys like watch any of the Justice Con over the weekend?
I just watched that clip and everything.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of the con itself, but I saw the clip. I've kind of read kind of what they were talking about. I saw the stuff about Snyder saying that he wasn't going to use any of Whedon's footage in the movie, which like I thought was a given. Obviously, it's a director's cut anyway. I saw the clip. I saw the stuff with the T-shirt, with the associate producer T-shirts, which I thought was a real class act, and the relationship as with that fan base that have kind of like made this happen is like a really heartwarming thing. And I think that, you know, I thought everything that went on with Justice Con, how they organized it, how it went, you know, the stuff that came out of it was, like you said, far more newsworthy than the actual San Diego Comic Con.
I agree. Yeah, for sure. And we were talking about the black suit Superman. I just pulled up the image from it, but the clip that Zack Snow showed at Justice Con, it was like 20-second clip of Superman meeting Alfred. That's great. Like it was so cool to see, and it was cool to see him in the black suit, and then it was cool to see him interact with Jeremy Irons as Alfred. It was, I mean, it's not a lot. It was a little tease to kind of like tide people over until Fandom, where I think we're getting an actual trailer. But it's awesome, and he knew the audience he was playing to. He's like, oh, they're gonna go bananas over black suit Superman. But so yeah, Jared, what did you make of black suit Superman and the little clip that Zach teased?
Yeah, again, very, very small clip, but I think it's what people wanted. It's what was like teased at us long ago and throughout this whole time before the Snyder Cut became a thing. So I wouldn't say that it like knocked my socks off, but I was like, this is awesome. This is cool to see. It's a very small detail, but it plays into what he was doing, into the comic lore and everything, which I'm sure, Owen, you know a hell of a lot more about comics than I do, but that is just one thing that I think the fans were grasping onto. And just 20 seconds, give them a quick tease. We're going to get a trailer of God knows what in a month or two, a couple weeks. Who knows when that fandom is.
22nd.
22nd, okay.
Of August, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think it was a cool, just to tease essentially.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, and Owen, real quickly, your take on the black suit.
Yeah, I think that in terms of like, because obviously I think releasing any sort of footage for the Snyder Cut of Justice League was going to get this huge response, because it's been something that fans have talked about for years. It's been, the last few months getting word that it's happening. Zack's finishing the movie. But to see, like, even if it's only 20 seconds, to see like a fully finished bit of the movie kind of just makes it that much more real. It's not kind of hypothetical. We have some sort of tangible finished footage to say, holy shit, look, it's there. And I think that,
holy shit, it's black suit Superman. Look at him right there.
I think in terms of a choice of things to show off, I think that was the perfect thing to do, because the reshoots with Superman is notoriously like one of the biggest problems that happened with the production of Justice League. Just from a visual standpoint, you can so easily tell the difference between what was in Snyder's version of the film with Superman and then what was in the reshoots that were done. And so to say, like, the first thing out the bat to show is it's Henry Cavill, it's the original scenes of Superman, not looking like he has a mustache removed in MS Paint.
That's true.
Is a good thing.
Yeah,
but then it's also like, the black suit, it's something that, like we talked about, that's such a very famous thing from the comics and a very famous Superman look that fans have wanted to see for a long time. And, obviously we didn't get any of that in the theatrical cut of Justice League. So it's such a good way of making whatever this, director's Snyder cut's going to be stand apart from the other versions. Say, we've got Cavill back. It's the original scenes he was shot. And like, look at that photo there that's on screen.
Look at him.
That is so clearly, look at it. It's beautiful. It's so clearly not like what we got from Cavill in the theatrical cut of the movie in so many different ways. Just like you could not know anything about the production of Justice League and just know that the original director is now making his own cut of the movie. see that and then say, oh, wow, this is clearly nothing like the thing I saw. So I thought it was a really clever first kind of like footage to show off. And, you know, the comic book fan of me, you know, who doesn't vibe with black suit Superman is badass.
I guess
now, like, if we can CGI on his mullet, like I'm in.
Oh man, that's what I'm looking for. Like, dude, where is the mullet? What is going on here? Come on, Zach, he's got to have it at some point, right? It's got to happen.
I think maybe the studio's a little too burned with trying to CGI hair on and off Henry Cavill's body, so they might just leave it. But
just cut this and put it back here.
Yeah, it'd be fine.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, yes, there you go. You have him looking beautiful as always, right there. Black
Here's what you
Superman.
do.
It was
you
great.
Take Cavill in The Witcher, like dye the hair black, and just slap that face on that body. Sorted.
Yeah.
Solid.
No, for sure. But anyways, guys, there you go. The Snyder cut, Black Suit Superman, all that stuff. Let us know your thoughts and opinions on the Comic-Con weekend. Were there any panels that you really liked? Did you enjoy Justice Con more? Are you looking forward to DC Fandom? Let us know all your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. And also, if you are watching live, start sending in your live questions as we speak. They can be on anything. It doesn't have to be comic book stuff. It doesn't have to be, you know, Marvel, DC, whatever. You can send any of your questions in. We'll save some time after our next story to take them. So, okay, final news topic of today is going to be Snake Eyes. Well, actually, I was going to talk about The Witcher. Yeah, we'll probably talk about The Witcher over Snake Eyes. I was like, maybe we don't.
Snake Eyes is a movie and it exists, maybe.
Yeah, I was about to say. It's, yeah, Snake Eyes is the Snake Eyes movie is getting pushed.
Now,
pushed
if I
back,
knew
so
we were talking about
know.
Witcher next, I would have segued off when I was talking about Henry Cavill's mullet.
Yeah,
we had a great segue ready, and it feels wasted now.
It does feel wasted. And I partially blame myself because I was going to try and sneak in that Snake Eyes story, but then I forgot about The Witcher, which we should probably talk about.
Yeah, we should probably talk about something that people actually care about.
Or even know about.
Wait, you're telling me that people don't care about this? Wait, hold on. I'm going to pull it up.
Well, Griff,
people
while
don't
you're
care.
pulling that up,
People don't care about this.
Mike?
No one cares about Snake Eyes.
I got to laugh because I think you noticed on their Twitter that they just threw a logo up at one point, and I'm like, oh, apparently there's a movie coming out.
You know what? Snake Eyes, the way that it's kind of threatening us to come out and be a movie, it's like the same as when Fox for years were threatening us with a Gambit movie. It's like, who's this for?
Here's the thing, though.
Who's sat there wanting this?
They've actually shot it. And it's finished, or close to being finished. Look, and Henry Golding is playing Snake Eyes.
Yep.
Can't he be in things that will be good, though? I like him. I want to see him in movies I enjoy.
I know. I totally get it. It's frustrating. Anyways, enough Snake Eyes. Let's talk about The Witcher, and then we will go into your live questions. So, guys, keep sending in those live questions so we can take them. So, all right, The Witcher, the Netflix series starring Henry Cavill, based off of the books, the novels of the same name, and then also kind of like subsequently based off of the video game. Although it's taking more from the books than it is the video game, was actually a pretty substantial hit when it released. I believe last year. I believe it's sitting at like a 66% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, so it was a little bit more mixed than I think what people were hoping for, mainly due to the storytelling structure, but I think most people enjoyed their time with it. So Netflix, naturally, because they want this to be their Game of Thrones and they want it to take the mantle of Stranger Things going forward, they've ordered a 6-part limited series called The Witcher Blood Origin, which is a live-action Witcher prequel. So this new series is described as being from the Witcher universe. It's set 1,200 years before the events of the main show and takes place in an elven world. It will tell a quote unquote story lost to time, as it tracks the origin of the very first Witcher and the events that led to the pivotal conjunction of the spheres when the worlds of monsters, men, and elves merged to become one. Declan DeBarra, who wrote The Witcher Season 1 episode of Banquets, Bastards, and Burials, and whose writing credits include Iron Fist and the originals, will serve as an executive producer and showrunner of Blood Origin, while The Witcher showrunner Lauren Schmidt-Hissrich will also serve as an executive producer. And we have a quote here from DeBarra saying, "As a lifelong fan of fantasy, I am beyond excited to tell the story of The Witcher Blood Origin. A question has been burning in my mind ever since I read the Witcher books. What was the elven world really like before the cataclysmic arrival of the humans? I've always been fascinated by the rise and fall of civilizations, how science, discovery, and culture flourish right before the fall, how vast swathes of knowledge are lost forever in such short time, often compounded by colonization and a rewriting of history, leaving only fragments of a civilization's true story behind. The Witcher Blood Origin will tell this tale of the elven civilization before its fall, and most importantly, reveal the forgotten history of the very first Witcher." So I know there's a lot of information there, a lot to sort of take in, and a lot of inside stuff for people who are familiar with The Witcher. But Owen, starting with you, did you watch the Witcher series with Henry Cavill? Quick thoughts, and then does it get you excited for this Witcher prequel series?
Okay, I have 3 takeaways from what you've just said. Number one, that press release and that statement, the premise that you just read off, like as an actual real historian, like, yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah.
Second of all, if that hadn't won me over, like, we've got one of the writers from Iron Fist. It's like, okay, sign me up. And thirdly, what was it? Combining the worlds of humans and elves. It's like, isn't that the movie Bright?
Oh man,
man, taking a dump.
All seriousness though, stuff like The Witcher and Game of Thrones, because obviously they're working on the prequel series to that as well.
Yeah.
Because there's so much mythology to these worlds. They're so rife with doing these kind of prequel stuff and kind of exploring the origins of the mythology. Like I said, I watched the Witcher show. I haven't really played much of the games, and I haven't read any of the books, so I'm by no means an expert on the lore of Witcher. But from what I saw in the show, there's definitely a really cool world there, and a lot of stuff that just from the initial episodes we don't know about. So if they want to do this kind of limited series and explore more of the origins and the backstories of the universe that the show is set in later, I'm very on board with that.
Yeah, for sure. Jaron?
Yeah. I think that, Owen, you hit it right on the head, where there's just so much lore in this world, and you can go any which way with it. You can bring in new characters, new species, new races, new powers, anything and everything. I did watch the first season on Netflix, and it is, I understand why it's rated a little bit lower, because it takes about 3 episodes to figure out what the hell is even going on, because I know I watched it, I'm like, I don't get any of this. Do I need to go play the game for a quick bit, read a book? But I liked where it went after that. So just going to the origin story and maybe having a character here or there pop up, because what has it come out that it said the first Witcher, or the origins of the Witcher, will that include Henry Cavill or not?
No, it will be without Henry Cavill, which is sort of like where I think this prequel series will be a bit of a gamble, because you don't have the star power of Henry Cavill. So you got to get someone in there who has equally as much star power to kind of anchor that series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, definitely that. Get a name in there of some sort, or a crew of people. But the one thing that I loved about the first season, and I hope that they dive more into it, but it takes monies and whatnot, but the creatures and the CGI, like, around them, like, that's what that game is. A guy going out and taking down these weird creatures, and the world is filled with that. That's what I want to see more of, is just maybe even, the different races. Like, let's get some elves over here, some, dwarves over here, but, like, give me a weird spider scorpion thing that someone has to take down. Like, I loved that part of it.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think I finished the first season, which was not a slight against the show. It was just more of kind of stopped watching for whatever reason, got distracted. But what I did see, I liked. I agree, it was a little not a little. It was very hard to follow, unnecessarily so. But the action was great. Henry Cavill is phenomenal, and I'm excited based off of the little that I've seen for a season 2. The idea of this prequel series is interesting. I love the comments from what is it? One of the executive producers, and I guess he's going to write some of the series. That is great. How the rise and fall of civilization and how a lot of that history gets lost. Because of it. That is fascinating. And if you take that mentality and apply it to a real life historical event, if you're making a show about it, I would love it. But I like that they're applying it to this show over here as well. So I don't know. The more Witcher we get, I think the better. It's such a rich world with so many different eras to explore, and different characters and mythologies and whatnot. And listen, I believe I can speak for all of us with saying we're not Witcher experts here. We have no idea what the books sort of have in store, or if they're gonna what they're gonna take from the books and put in the series. So if you are more familiar with that, let us know in the comments. But just based off of literally this press release and everything, I think we're in for something pretty solid that excites me. So that's going to do it for our news stories today, guys. Be sure to leave your thoughts and opinions on any of the topics we've discussed down in the comment section below. Your thoughts on the Witcher prequel series. Are you excited for it? All that good stuff. And most importantly, start sending in your live questions. We will be taking them for maybe 15 or so minutes. So start sending them in, guys. All right, let's see. Well, actually, let me just kind of throw it to you both of you first. What have you been watching recently, and what's gotten you super excited about content?
For myself, I mean, it comes out this Friday, but I watched Umbrella Academy season 2. I had never seen season. What's that?
Well, I was gonna say, if you want to give your quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll give my quick thoughts. I binged through season 1 because everyone was raving about it. Season 2 comes out this Friday, and I was fortunate enough to be able to check out season 2. And it takes everything that you loved about season 1, going back into a different time period, a few different characters, but the music, the charm, the action, the fun moments between the characters, the wackiness of the world, it just ramps up even more. I think the music, whoever chose the music for this just knew exactly vision of what scene with the music. It just complements everything. So if you're a fan of season 1, definitely check out season 2. And if you haven't, I would recommend go and check this out. I mean, we're all stuck inside. Turn it on. It's a weird take on superheroes and a family drama at a time, or a mixture of that as well. So check it out. For sure.
All right, Owen?
The thing that I haven't started watching it yet, but the next show that I'm going to kind of get through is season 2 of Doom Patrol. Which is kind of in the middle of coming out at the moment. Which for me, the first season of that is easily the best thing that came out of that DC subscription service that doesn't look like it's going to last much longer.
Well, it's kind of been absorbed into HBO Max. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that season 1 of Doom Patrol was fantastic. Doom Patrol is a historically very weird comic book. And so to see it adapted in a way that embraces all the sheer oddness of it is wonderful. Especially after, Titans came out and is very kind of self-serious, and it takes itself far too seriously for something that is actually very ridiculous and kind of stupid. To see Doom Patrol go the other way and kind of just embrace the fact that this concept is frankly ridiculous, but it's fun. So we're just going to roll with it. And from what I'm hearing about season 2, it's just as good as season 1. So I'm really excited to I'm going to wait for the whole season to finish and then just go through it and enjoy it. But that's what I'm looking forward to watching next, I think.
Yeah. Doom Patrol's solid. I've only watched season 1, but yeah, I it's great. Listen, the more Timothy Dalton and Brendan Fraser you can give me in any capacity,
oh yeah,
I'm sold. I'm sold. It's enough to get anyone to start watching, and they're so good in the show. Actually, what's funny? The last time I think they were in an entity together was Looney Tunes Back in Action, and I was watching Looney Tunes Back in Action a couple of nights ago because it's one of my favorite family films, and I love Looney Tunes, and I love how just kind of cheeky that movie is. It's great, man. I forgot what it was like to see a youthful Brendan Fraser who looks like he's enjoying life. You know, it's just that poor man. Oh, the divorce killed him. The divorce, it did him in. It did him in. Anyways, well, actually, do either of you like Looney Tunes Back in Action?
As soon as you said that, you sent me down like some sort of like nostalgia wave, because it's like I remember going to watch that movie in the cinema.
Yeah,
like,
same.
I'm an old man.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
And then I'm sat there like, oh, I remember when I used to go to the cinema and it was full.
Oh yeah.
I was allowed to leave the house and watch Looney Tunes Back in Action.
You're just bringing this into a very dreary state of this episode right now.
I'm sorry.
I know.
I didn't intend. Griffin sent me to a dark place in my past.
Listen, man, I know. I get the feeling. You get misty-eyed over Looney Tunes Back in Action. You start thinking about Brendan Fraser with Daffy Duck going on a quest to find this jewel with Steve Martin as this like caricature of like of a corporate like CEO of Acme. It's,
you know what?
Oh, it's so good.
You know what? I'm going to do the greatest double feature tonight. I'm going to watch Looney Tunes Back in Action, and then I'm going to watch Space Jam. And I'm going to have a great time.
I really hope you do. That does sound like a great time. Even if I don't like Space Jam as much as Looney Tunes Back in Action. I know to some people that is like awful. Like how could I possibly think?
I mean, that is
how dare I say
that is what taught me about the concept of basketball. You know, when I watched the Last Dance documentary, I was really confused as to why at no point they never mentioned the year that Michael Jordan went to space and played against the Monstars.
It was a documentary.
It really happened. I don't know.
There was no reference to that, and I thought that otherwise it was a really interesting documentary, but there was a gross oversight on the part of the filmmakers on that to not acknowledge this significant part of our world's history.
Well, listen. Michael Jordan was all about trying to sanitize the documentary as much as possible. We all know about the kind of debacle that happened there.
It's 2020. Things being sanitized is good. This is the year of sanitizing. But to whitewash and scrub this important part of our history out of such a otherwise prestigious and respected documentary was frankly insulting.
I was a little insulted. The lack of Bill Murray in The Last Dance was very it was just wrong.
He is one of basketball's greatest stars.
Oh man, yeah, I couldn't agree more. Jared, do you have any thoughts on Space Jam or
I sentiment everything you guys are saying. It's just a shame that, you know, just like any other history, they take things away and make it to what they want you to know.
History belongs to the victors, sadly.
Yes, that's true. That's true. It's like what the producer of The Witcher said. I'm definitely getting the same vibe from the Space Jam controversy.
Listen. I think the producer of The Witcher is on to something here.
Do you think I can recut The Last Dance and include an extra episode where they talk about Space Jam?
Oh God, 100%. Even if you had to like reuse footage from previous episodes of The Last Dance,
I definitely think I could edit up an episode where they talk about Space Jam.
Oh, absolutely.
Netflix, get at me. You know,
come on.
I've got 3 months off as of September, so I don't mind.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Okay, Dennis S. asking, do you think the superhero hype is starting to die out, especially because of the MCU wrapping up to an extent and the pandemic doing its thing? Mr. Comics Expert, is the superhero hype starting to die out?
No. Short answer. Long answer. I feel like we've been having this question since Avengers came out in 2012.
That I agree with you. That has sort of been the thing. It's
right now it feels like there's no hype because right now cinemas aren't open, new movies aren't being released, and then also like we're in that kind of weird post Endgame thing where like we don't know what the next big blockbuster superhero film is. Is it Batman? Is that kind of the next big one that everyone's going to kind of like rush out to?
Yeah.
But like with the last kind of like 7 or 8 years, it's been constant. Like this year we're getting Civil War, then we're getting, you know, Avengers, and then we're getting Spider-Man and Justice League. That happened. Don't talk about that. It's kind of like been this constant thing. And then with a mixture of kind of like Marvel, not so much. I don't think they're wrapping up. I don't think the MCU's going anywhere. I don't think the MCU is ended or is ending, but they're kind of like moving out of one era, going into another era. This is kind of like the transition period. DC is in the kind of same boat where they're kind of transitioning from one structure to another and kind of one vision to another. So I think this is kind of like a lull period anyway. And then when you factor in, you know, the cinemas not being open, the pandemic, production being delayed, it might feel like the hype's dying down. But I think at this point, superhero movies are like so entrenched in cinema and in film that's like saying, is comedy gonna go out, or are movies about Looney Tunes gonna go out of style?
Never. They will listen. Looney
Tunes. They will
Tunes,
always be back in action, baby.
Listen, Bugs Bunny just turned 80. And he is probably the best looking.
For it.
He looks fantastic. He's not going anywhere. No, the Looney Tunes are here to stay.
Like Bugs Bunny for president, man. That's what
he's definitely had some work done, but he looks great.
Jared, the question to you, what do you think?
Again, like Owen had said, like right now there's not much hype around anything because we're just like waiting. We're sitting in the wings waiting for things. And I'm going to say yes and no. Yes, the fact that, you know, maybe the hype or whatnot is gone because if they keep doing movies like Bloodshot, yes. But they've advanced into a thing where they're taking more care to these superhero movies. It's not just a straight up superhero movie. It's like maybe a family drama. It's a thriller. It's a horror film. They're throwing in added pieces to it to evolve that genre essentially.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. It's like I've always heard the comparison to like, oh, the superhero movies are going to die out like the Westerns. And I'm like, well, okay, first of all, Westerns are still getting made. They're just not in the same capacity as they used to be. And it's a completely different thing. Like superhero movies, comic book movies is such a big umbrella. And there are so many subgenres within that. Like we have Black Widow coming out. That's like a spy Jason Bourne type movie that is that happens to be a comic book film. WandaVision, whatever the fuck that is, like that's like some weird, wacky sitcom that also happens to be tied into the MCU. All these like Logan is a Western that happens to be a comic book film. So I just don't know if I agree with that necessarily. I think it'll evolve and it'll change just like all of these genres do. And it's not going anywhere. It's still like probably the most popular thing on the planet. Yeah. I'd say it's even more popular than Star Wars right now because people are so burnt on Star Wars, you know.
And the thing is, Griff, you're saying like you're mentioning all of these films. It's almost like the superhero moniker or whatever the thing you put on it. That's like taking second bill, where it's like you're saying Logan is a Western but also superhero. Like it's these things where it's like, oh no, you could rank it with Western films essentially.
No, I completely agree. Okay, Owen's saying, really sorry, my computer has just shut down.
He just blew up.
It's okay. It's just enjoy my weird still face image for the rest of the show. It's okay, Owen, no worries. All right, so let's take a few more questions here, then we'll start to close things out. Actually, this is a good one for you, Jared. Have you played The Witcher 3, and what do you think of the story?
So I've played a couple hours of it, but there's certain games that I have taught myself over the years to just set down and never go back to, because I realized there's just so much to do in those games, and I love to be a completionist. So I wouldn't be here if I'd ever started playing The Witcher 3, because I just wouldn't have time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those games that's like it's so long. I have a roommate and a friend who's he's 100%ed the game twice. Like, he has dumped so many hours into that thing. I'm just like, wow. Like good on you. But I mean, I've only heard great things about it. I'm a big fan of third person RPGs, so it's definitely something that I would probably like. In the story, I've also heard is amazing, but it's just like to put that amount of time into a game, I just don't have that. So,
oh yeah, no, I love everything about it. I just know I can't do it because I have an addictive personality at certain things, and that is one of them.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's see. Where was the there was a question here that I wanted to pick out. Okay, so 402 asking, why aren't movies made for adults anymore? I love all kinds of movies, but the adult market has been ignored for too long. So I guess this is interesting because I think I see where you're going with it, but I don't entirely agree with what you're saying. If anything, I think it's the reverse. I think the kid market and the family, movie market has largely been ignored. Outside of like animated movies, Pixar films and stuff like that, you never see like those classic like movies like Jumanji. Like, I know we have the Jumanji sequels now, but like movies like that don't really come around all that often. I don't know why I just thought of this, but Race to Witch Mountain, stuff like that, or even like, I don't know, more, I guess animated movies that have stuff in there for adults and kids, like the Shrek movies, for instance. It's like I feel like that is sort of a lost market, and we aren't producing as many movies for an audience like that as we used to. It's usually like a PG-13 type movie. There's rarely like a PG film. Like I think the last one I saw was like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. That was so refreshing because it was mature. It treated its target audience with respect, but like it was for everyone. Like, families with like older kids could go see it. Maybe kids, if they were ready for a horror film, could go see it. And there was stuff to enjoy in there. So while I see what you're saying about like you want like more I guess edgier, like more thought-provoking cinema, I feel like there is a good amount of that out there. You just got to look for it. And I know you are a independent aficionado, film aficionado, and you love that sort of stuff. I think one of your you go on to say in there by saying we had a slew of them in the 70s that were really intelligent, but since then they aren't being made much. I think distributors like A24 and Neon are really the studios that are the flagship for these sort of things, because it is hard to sort of market to the masses. But that's why someone like Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve, if he reaches that level, are really exciting because they bring auteur cinema to the masses, and they are very thoughtful in what they're trying to do and what they're trying to say. So, yeah. Anyways, Jared, what do you kind of make of this question?
Yeah, you brought up some good examples right there at the end. At first when I read this, I was like, adult only, like erotica essentially, and then I was like, okay, my brain is going somewhere
we
else.
Need more porn, man.
Yeah, we need more of them peep shows that you got going on there. It really depends like what is adult nowadays, because it's kind of, you go in Mission Impossible, that's got adult type themes and stuff, but it's PG-13.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're looking for like a hard R type movie, because then you're getting into stuff where it's just it's not good, and that's or critically well received essentially. I like how you brought up the whole like the opposite, where it's like the animated movies that I still maybe go back to are because now I watch and it's like, oh, that was made for my parents. As a kid, I took it this way. As an adult, they took it a different way, and Pixar is pretty good at doing that too.
Go back and watch Madagascar, man. That film, it's so great. There's so much in there that went over my head as a kid that I just love now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I was just thinking of, like you said, the Race to Witch Mountain. There's stuff that when we were kids, it was kind of like, oh, they don't make it like that. But then again, is it that weird nostalgia factor that's like blurring my image of these films?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. It is interesting. Like, I wish Disney would make more like Tron Legacies. Like, that's a great family movie with great artistic merit to it. I know some people didn't really care for the story or whatever. I don't know. I think that movie's fucking amazing.
It looked cool.
But it's like, it's like more movies like that. Maybe if like The Lone Ranger had done, it was like a little less long-winded and like was better in its characterization of the Lone Ranger. Maybe that would have been a great, family movie. like a lot of the live action Disney films that they've stopped making have replaced with the live action remakes. Those are fun. The original concepts, like Pirates of the Caribbean, man, those I love those family adventure films for sure. But it's an interesting question to think about. So I get where you're coming from. So thank you for bringing that up. All right, we will take two more questions here,
Get
and
some
then we
good
will
ones in there, people.
Close out, guys. So send them in. Let's see.
Make them some good ones, because I'm about to pee my pants.
Yeah, I know. Same. I see people are getting ready to fight in the chat, so that's interesting.
All right, 10 rounds, fisticuffs. Let's go.
Let's go. All right, Christian Eulenberg, thanks so much for joining, man. Betty White versus the Queen of England. Who would win in a fight? I think Betty White knocks the Queen on her ass.
Yeah,
she's too. Yeah, I mean, she's too pampered. You know.
Yeah, definitely Betty White, because I've also seen pictures of her hanging out with like Snoop Dogg and stuff. So definitely, she has a wild side to her. Yeah,
for sure. But listen, the Queen's crazy. She'll do some crazy stuff. Okay, we got one more. Owen commenting on the topic we just talked about. I think we still have adult films, things like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Invisible Man spring to mind, but PG-13 certainly has become the norm for big studio films. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think sometimes I am yearning for that R rating, that more mature film, but I get it. Like studios are trying to make money. Less and less people are going to theaters. They got to put out stuff that's going to, attract a wide variety of audiences, which is why like comic book films are so popular and so, in right now. But okay, one final question, guys. Make it a good one. I don't want to leave on a bad one.
On a Betty White.
On a Betty White question. As much as I love you, Christian. Let's see. Make it a good one. Come on, guys.
Yeah. I'm going to vamp a little bit, but yeah, that whole PG-13, it's like obviously monies. But if it calls for that rated R, like if I don't want violence, language, and stuff just thrown in there, like Coffee and Kareem over on Netflix. Horrible movie, and it could have been a PG-13 movie, if not a PG movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I actually didn't watch that movie, but
don't.
I've heard
it's
not good. Yeah, I've
not
heard
good.
It's not good. Okay, guys, let's see. Maybe there is one in here. Let's see. I mean, we always. Let's see. Okay, we'll end on this one. Thank you, Dennis, for a great final question. Dennis S., favorite content creator on YouTube outside of the movie business? And nobody you know personally. Jared, who do you got?
Oh God, it's more of like a company, not really a sole person, but like Funhouse. I don't know if you guys are aware of them. They're a subsidiary of Rooster Teeth, video games, comedy, a bunch of stuff like that. So I gravitate towards their stuff.
Your goal is to be the Rooster Teeth or the Funhouse of movie YouTube.
Honestly, if I could work for either of them, I'm done. Like that's my goal.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I think for me, outside of movie stuff, it's really hard because I do primarily stick to that. But I like watching Blue Mon because I'm big into like hair and fashion and stuff like that. I like watching Modern Man TV, who's a similar thing. I like watching Think Media, Sean Cannell, and all this stuff he's doing about like growing your YouTube channel and stuff like that. There's a channel called Podcastage, which is all about audio and mic reviews and stuff like that. The dude is absolutely hilarious, but he's super knowledgeable. He does amazing mic reviews. I'm trying to think of what else. There's probably a whole bunch more, but yeah, I stick to that sort of stuff. But anyways, guys, we're finished. That's it. Thank you so much for sending in your questions, for participating, for joining us on episode 4 of Film Forum, which is, I believe, our longest episode to date. Had a lot to cover there with the Emmys right off the bat. So thanks for tuning in for the full thing. Be sure to leave your thoughts and opinions on anything we discussed down in the comment section below. Like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. And listen, if you want to support the channel a little bit more, feel free to head on over to our Patreon and check out the cool things we have going on over there. I do want to thank Owen for joining me on this show. I know he is not here, but go check out Owen Likes Comics. The dude is amazing, especially if you love really in-depth video essays on comics and their impact on our world and society. But thank you, Mr. Jared Buckendahl, J-Buck Studios, Big J-Buck Daddy. Where can everyone find you?
The big man.
The big man.
Well, Griff, no, thank you again for inviting me over. I didn't realize that this show structure was now like a battle royale. It's like whoever ends up at the end wins, because we had to kick Owen out.
I know, you're the last man standing.
I'm last man standing, so I get to do my plugs. But you guys can find me over on YouTube at J-Buck Studios, and then Twitter, Instagram at Jared Buckendahl. A very long, tough name. Just type in J-Buck, you'll find it. But yeah, I'm doing movie reviews, watching a lot of stuff, ending explained poorly videos. I like to do the normal movie stuff like this, but throw a little bit of comedy in there because that's my style. So jump over and watch all of the ridiculousness.
It's great. It's seriously, he's one of the most talented YouTubers on the platform. So go give him a watch and a subscribe and all that good stuff. But lastly, guys, be sure to like FilmSpeak on Facebook, follow us on Twitter so you can keep up with us. And then lastly, if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right. That's going to do it for this episode of Film Forum, and we will catch you back here on Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. But until then, take care.